currently 15 degrees and snowing in Portland. What better time than now to talk about winter jackets? I've got 8 jackets in total that we're going to be covering today. Just about any type of style. We've got down, we've got wool, we've got waxed canvas, we've got parkas. I'm going to be going in a few different categories and going from the lightest weight jackets to the heaviest weight jackets. So feel free to skip around and see what interests you. It's going to be a little bit dense, but I am really excited for it. So to start things off in the lightweight category, we've got the Anvil Melton wool jacket from Kato or Kato, however you pronounce it. It's the lightest weight of the bunch. It definitely falls more into a shirt jacket category, but it's still perfectly suitable for a lot of temperate climates. Or if you want to add this into a layering system, which is what a lot of people do in more extreme cold environments. This is a 16-ounce wool blend. It's 80% wool, 20% nylon. The extra nylon in there is to help a bit with the durability and keep it lighter weight. And the type of wool here is Melton wool. If you're not familiar, I did a little bit of a deep dive. It is a woven twill type of fabric, so it's going to be a lot tighter of a weave. This is generally known as one of the most weather-resistant wools out there, very similar to Mackinaw wool that you see in, like the Filson Mackinaw cruisers, but this is going to be a lot softer. It's almost like a peached type of feel. Not quite as soft as a merino wool t-shirt, but much softer than what a lot of people think of with just like a regular wool fabric. For a shirt jacket, this is a really interesting piece in how they decided to construct it. It almost has more of a 3D shape instead of, a usual two-sided panel shape with a shirt jacket. They've added a third panel, or third and fourth, I guess, on either side. So it's almost like a side gusset. If you have gusseted pants, you have this little extra bit of fabric in the middle. So it gives it a little more of a 3D shape. I think it adds to the overall look and feel of this. Definitely a sort of nicer, dressier type of vibe. The fabric is more than capable for, outdoor adventures and being beaten up and everything, but this has a much more refined look than most anything else I've seen in this sort of like wool jacket or wool shirt jacket category. Makes for really versatile styling. I think this is something you can kind of dress up for more of a date night thing in the city, but you can still take this out camping if you wanted to, and it would be more than capable of handling something like that. Touching on the construction and build quality here outside of the Melton wool fabric, it is impeccable. So many areas here are going to be double or even triple stitched. No stitches out of place, no loose threads, everything looks impeccable. They have these really great cat eye buttons that kind of give it that more military type of vibe from the old military clothing. I really like they have this red accent thread for the cat eye buttons. Just a really nice touch of polish and detail there. On the inside, you have this little soft type of synthetic lining on the back yoke and around the collar. You have 4 total pockets, 2 chest pockets here, one of which has a pen slot that can go through the flap. Really cool little touch there, and it is actually divided in the pocket itself. And then you have 2 kind of hand warmer side pockets, nothing on the interior. This is a very simple coat, but the attention to detail in the design here is great. I love the fit. I love this 3D gusset type of shape. Makes it really comfortable and flattering with the drape. All in all, this was my first piece from Kato, and I'm really impressed with it. I'm hoping to get my hands on some of their denim this year, so I'll be sure to report back over time. But if you're in the market for a good lightweight jacket that's going to be pretty versatile for outdoor stuff, city stuff, everything, this has been excellent so far. Moving into the next lightweight jacket, this one is from Relwen. This is their insulated quilted tanker jacket. I've had this one for quite some time now. It quickly jumped in as one of my favorites. It has this sort of vintage military type of style, which seems to speak through a lot of Relwen's clothing. The exterior shell fabric is 73% nylon and 27% cotton. It's 125 GSM. It's peached fabric, so it has, almost a softer, fuzzier type of feel. They do say this is water repellent in their marketing materials. In my experience, maybe it's just because I live in Portland and it's rainy a lot when I need jackets. This thing is not water resistant. We're keeping this in the lightweight jacket category, but it does have some built-in insulation. It's an 80-gram recycled poly insulation. It's pretty minimal and thin. Relwen has a big focus on layering in the way that they design their clothing. So this on its own is going to be good in more of a spring and fall type of situation, but you could easily layer up with this in the winter months and be perfectly fine, unless you're up in, Nova Scotia or something. On the interior, you have this this really nice ripstop type of material, super soft. This will be a little bit more slippery. It runs through the sleeves as well. So if you do want to layer underneath, it's not going to be a pain to be able to put layers on and off underneath this. Going over the pocket layout, you have 2 chest pockets and 2 side pockets, but the chest pockets, you have 1 button and 1 zipper. Again, that military sort of feel. And then the side pockets are actually lined with this really nice, almost microfiber type of feel in the fabric. And then you have a similar fabric up on the neckline here just to add some extra softness against that back of your neck. Now the zipper here feels great. You have the option of buttons or zipper or a combination of both, but another little fun attention to detail here. It's not a 2-way zipper, but the zipper itself is actually raised up from the bottom hem of the jacket. So if you are wearing this while you're driving, it's not going to ride up and bunch up and be uncomfortable. Really great styling, great for more moderate weather, and really great for layering as well. A couple of years with this jacket, it quickly became one of my favorites. So we covered the lightweight jackets. Next up, we've got some medium weight jackets in the form of waxed canvas. Waxed canvas is kind of the epitome of that heritage style. It's usually natural fibers, but you still get a lot of the weather resistance of, more modern technology. It's something that can be re-weatherproof in the form of re-waxing, and it's meant to be passed down for generations. It's been a really fun category to dive into after getting my waxed trucker jacket. This one is also from Flint & Tinder. This is the Flannel-Lined waxed Hudson jacket. Apart from them both being waxed canvas, that's kind of where the similarities end between this and, the famous Flint & Tinder trucker jacket. Jumping straight into the style for this one, it definitely has that sort of old-timey, old English hunting jacket type of vibe. You're going to take this and your rifle and your bloodhound and go wander around and hunt, pheasants or something. The wax canvas here is a British Millerain tech wax. It's called Evolution 8. British Millerain is a world-renowned fabric mill. They started in Yorkshire in 1880. I feel very confident they weren't the absolute first people in history to do it, but from what I can tell researching online, this was one of the main fabric mills to really introduce wax canvas to the mainstream. But what you have on the interior is this beautiful flannel lining. It's actually 100% cotton flannel as well, which is a nice touch. You have these great corduroy accents that go along the seams here, and it's also found on the collar. I tend to wear this with a popped collar. I think it just adds that sort of, vintagey classic type of look. The flannel lining is pretty minimal here in terms of warmth, but you have a few things going for it that really add to the potential temperature rating for this using it in the winter. You have a lot more length than the other wax canvas jackets like the trucker or the quilted shirt jacket that we're actually going to be talking about next. And then wax canvas in general is going to be very weatherproof, so very waterproof and windproof. It really makes a big difference. Heat loss through wind is one of the biggest culprits of being cold. I know that a lot from my time, backpacking outdoors, but even in, normal day-to-day use, it makes a pretty big difference. So you could layer this with a sweater and easily get through, most people's winters. Moving into the pocket situation, you have a ton here. On the interior, you have one little flat pocket here to put a phone or something. It's not zipped, but just out in the open. And getting into the front here, you have 2 side pockets here that are actually split. So it's 2 pockets, but 4 pockets really. You can get to them from the side or through the buttons on the top. So it's nice to be able to have hand warmer pockets, but you can still have closable flat pockets if you want to put something in there and not worry about it getting lost. Right above that on the one side, you have another sort of flat pocket without any kind of buttons. Nice to just toss, AirPods or something in there. And on the back, like I said, going back to that hunting jacket style roots, you have this game pocket or map pocket. Really nice touch. I always heard it as a map pocket and didn't realize it was a game pocket until recently when researching for this jacket. Still cool nonetheless. It's a great spot to put, gloves or something if you're walking around and need to take them off. Truly excellent jacket though, with such a cool, old English heritage type of style. Definitely has a more winter cozy type of vibe if you want to wear some wax canvas and venture out from the typical, trucker jackets or bomber jackets or anything like that. Next up, we've got a great alternative option if you want something a little bit more versatile for styling and potentially a little bit warmer. This is another Flint & Tinder waxed canvas jacket, but this is the Quilted waxed shirt jacket. I've talked about this thing a few times already, but it was too perfect to not include in this roundup here because this is probably my favorite of my 3 wax canvas jackets, if I have to be honest. It's the most versatile for styling. It's a little bit warmer and cozier with the quilting. You can dress it up in kind of a heritage type of way. You can even wear it in more of like a streetwear type of vibe as well. I've got this one here in the dark forest color. This again is another British Millerain wax canvas. This is Evolution 6 though, so I believe it's a 6 ounce. And that's with the Evolution naming scheme. I couldn't find anything definitive online, but this feels a little bit lighter weight, the wax canvas, compared to the waxed Hudson jacket, which feels a lot more stiff and burly. On the interior here though, like I said, it is insulated. You have a 100% Japanese polyester lining. Really great for layering because you can slide in and out of this very easily compared to, an unlined wax canvas or even the flannel. In between the shell and the lining, you have a 40-gram recycled Primaloft insulation. Not a ton of insulation, but a little bit goes a long way when you have a really strong shell. Like I mentioned earlier, wax canvas, blocks that wind so well compared to a lot of materials. Pocket situation is excellent here. You have one interior zipper pocket, which always comes in handy. I love zipper pockets on the interior, so I don't have to worry about stuff falling out. But you have one sort of top open pocket on the side here if you want to put your phone or something like that. You have 2 chest pockets with buttons, and then you have 2 side pockets. I know I've talked about this before. My one complaint with this jacket is the placement of these side pockets. They're lined up with the side seams of the jacket. It's just a little bit too far back to feel natural to use them. You have this really nice soft lining on the interior though, so it takes some getting used to. It's not a huge deal, but definitely worth mentioning in my opinion. I think they should just move these up, even though it's a shirt jacket. Plenty of shirt jackets have closer in front pockets without any sort of issues with the design and the shirt feel. And this barely feels like a shirt because it is wax canvas anyway. Really great jacket though. I think it serves well as a 3-season option. So one of the more versatile ones that we're talking about today, getting into fall and winter and spring. Winter, throw a couple of layers underneath and you're covered. Fall and spring, this in a t-shirt, you'd be good to go. Love the style, super versatile, really can't go wrong with it. Staying in the medium weight category with the wax canvas, next up I've got a couple of down puffy jacket options. Down puffy jackets are arguably going to be the most versatile for all around use. The warmth to weight ratio really can't be beat if you do any kind of traveling or outdoor adventures, things like that. I love that heritage style of wax canvas, but a puffer jacket is just going to serve a lot of purposes and arguably is probably a little bit more versatile on the function side, maybe not as much on the style side. But getting into it with the first one here, a really interesting piece, bit of a curveball. This is the Outdoor Vitals NovaPro down jacket. I spend a lot of my free time backpacking and I spend a lot of time in the shoulder seasons, and it's really wet and cold here a lot of times in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. Having good warm layers that are light enough to carry in my backpacking kit, super important. I've been a huge fan of Outdoor Vitals and their layering systems for quite some time. This is definitely the epitome of function over form though. Definitely not a super attractive jacket to wear out day to day, but from an adventure and function standpoint, it is absolutely one of my favorites. I don't know if that light's been out the whole time or if it just went out, but I just turned it back on. Apologies for that. Getting back into it though, this thing is ultra light and ultra warm. They designed it kind of from the ground up as a 4-season, full winter use insulating layer while backpacking, which is a tough feat. It weighs 14.5 ounces in a men's large. Less than a pound. That is crazy light and way lighter than anything else that we're talking about today. They have this really interesting baffling system. It is a 0-stitch type of style. The baffling is actually woven in with the fabric itself. It leads to about 10,000 fewer stitches in the jacket, which one, helps keep the weight down. You don't have as much thread running through, but 2, and way more importantly, you have a lot less holes for potential leakage of warmth, of down, of water coming in. It really makes a huge difference. This thing cuts wind unbelievably. I've taken this out early in the spring in the desert, and it's a little bit more flat and cold, and the wind just really whips through. You get to camp early in the off season because it's dark, so you spend a lot more time sitting around, at least I do. So when you're sitting, it gets really important that you have good insulating layers, and this thing held up so well. It's been my go-to jacket, even during a lot of the summer months, because it gets into the 40s a lot of times, and I just like being cozy and warm. The shell fabric is a 20D nylon. I think that is a great balance. You know, a lot of ultralight backpacking jackets will go 7D or 10 denier for the fabric weight. 20D is a great in-between, where it's going to be burly enough where you don't have to really baby it, but it's still not heavy enough that you're going to have to worry about carrying the extra weight. It's DWR coated as well. Personal experience, that has worked excellent. It uses 800 plus fill power down LT insulation. It's their proprietary type of thing. It's made predominantly with hyper dry down, which is a wax treated down, kind of the industry best standard. Most of the high-end sleeping bags will use hyper dry down treatment. Makes a big difference in wet areas like the Pacific Northwest for me, and they do have a small portion of synthetic insulation blended in to help keep the loft if the conditions get wet or troublesome. One other aspect I really appreciate with this compared to other ultralight jackets is you still get a few extra little luxuries. You have two side pockets here, you have a full, substantial enough middle zipper, you have cinches on the hood, little cuffs on the sleeve. It actually has a drop back, so if you're wearing a backpack or if you're sitting, it's not going to ride up and expose your lower back or your butt to that extra cold weather. All in all, performance-wise, this thing is just absolutely a 10 out of 10 for me. Where it kind of falls apart in this video, though, is the styling. Not the most attractive style to be wearing around town compared to most other options. But if you're someone that does a lot of outdoor backpacking, or if you're a super weight-conscious traveler, you'd be hard-pressed to find something that will perform as well as this in this weight range. You kind of sacrifice some of the style in exchange for that, though. That being said, still a worthy contender in this roundup of jackets. Anytime I'm going backpacking, this thing comes with me. Still in the realm of mid-weight jackets and down puffy jackets, another alternative to the Outdoor Vitals NovaPro is the Proof PowerFill down. This is a newer jacket from Proof. It's one of Huckberry's house brands. They actually make my Rover pants that I really love, one of my favorites. I've had this for a little over a month now and am very impressed with it. It kind of brings a lot to the table that the NovaPro does, but in a much more stylish way. Style is completely subjective, of course. That's my preference. I still usually prefer wax canvas or wool for a lot of my outerwear, but for a down puffy jacket, I think this one looks pretty great. The shell they used is 100% nylon treated with DWR again, just like the NovaPro. It's a little bit thicker and burlier in feel, not by much, but probably a 40D if I had to guess for this fabric weight. Compared to the 800 fill power down the NovaPro, this uses a 650 fill power down, and it's a 90-10 duck down. If you're not familiar, the 90-10, if you ever see those sort of percentages on down products, it's the amount of down versus feathers. Down is actually the proper insulating portion of that. Usually as a cost saving measure, at least to my knowledge, is why they'll blend in feathers as well. This is also presumably untreated down compared to the hyper dry down in the NovaPro. So the NovaPro kind of beats it out in terms of performance and specs and being a little bit lighter weight, but where this thing really pulls ahead is the overall styling. I think this is much better suited for day-to-day use and city use, and then you also get a few extra little, amenities and creature comforts in here that you don't have in the NovaPro. It's a much boxier, puffier type of fit. I think it adds to more of an adventure-y type of look, the classic Pacific Northwest stereotype vibe, but I think you can also kind of style this in more of a streetwear type of aesthetic as well. And in terms of some of the extra creature comforts and things, you have full nice ribbed cuffs on the jacket. Pocket situation is also really good. You have two side pockets that are actually lined with a softer interior lining. I mentioned before, I really love to see that. It's just nice and cozy when you put your hands in. And you also get a nice zipper pocket on the chest interior as well, which is something that always comes in handy for me. All in all, I have been really enjoying this and find myself reaching for it a lot more than I ever expected to. It may not be the ultimate best in terms of specs, but you get a really great all-around, probably the most versatile jacket in this list here. I would say this one or the wax canvas insulated shirt jacket are going to be the two most versatile. You can layer them up, wear them on their own. Styling is going to work work with a few different types of styles. So if you have to get one and you're super travel focused, I know this is going to be the one I'll probably reach for most flights and trips where space is at a premium, but I still want to look good when I get there. That's the end of the down puffy section and the midweight jacket section. We've got some heavyweight parkas coming up next, but really quick before we do that, I want to cover some accessory items, gloves, and the hat I've been really enjoying lately. Really quick, I know we're running super long. Hopefully editor Josh can edit this down to a reasonable length for all of you, and hopefully you've been using the timestamps. First up, I want to talk about these gloves though. They are the elk hide gloves from Hestra. I've got two different gloves here, one that are a little bit more of a midweight glove and a little bit nicer for city and day-to-day use, and I've got one that's really heavyweight, super cold, a more adventure-y type of glove. These are made with Nordic elk leather. It's very similar to deer leather, but a little bit thicker and a little bit softer and should patina really nicely. I just got these a couple of months ago, and we're just now getting into our colder winter months, so both of these will be put through their paces a little bit better over the coming couple of months. On the interior, you have a brushed polyester lining, and then it has Primaloft insulation in between. You have a little cinch here if you need it, but all in all, just really polished, really nice. I finally got around to watching The Last of Us. Cool to see, the wax trucker jacket in there all throughout the season, but I did notice in the winter months, Joel wears Hestra gloves. Not these exact models, but I just spotted it when I was looking and looked it up online and saw. So it was a fun little touch. Really amazing quality gloves. They're beautiful, they're soft and luxurious. Excellent choice as like a midweight option. Something that I just picked up that I'm really excited to use. I've got a winter camping trip planned next week and a bit of a break from the YouTube channel. It's been a busy few months. I'm excited to get back outside. These are the Giver 4-season gloves. So this is a cowhide glove, and it's actually a waxed cowhide. So it's going to be a little bit more weatherproof than leather already kind of is. Underneath that, you actually have a reflective heat layer. I presume it's kind of like the space blankets, that sort of metal, shiny, reflective type of layer. Underneath that, you have a waterproof membrane layer, and under that you have 40 grams of Thinsulate insulation. They feel extremely warm. You have these really nice tight cuffs that extend out, so if you're wearing these in the really cold months, you can have that without any sort of heat loss. You have this nice little leather tab so you can pull these on and off without damaging the cuff, if you plan on using these and wearing them for years like they expect you to. Really nice gloves. More of an initial impressions on these ones for me because I just got them in and haven't properly tested them out yet. But like I said, I'm going winter camping here in about a week, and I can't wait to see how these hold up. You can actually grab hot things as well. They work for the heat or the cold. So stoking fires in the winter while you're camping, you can just pick a log right off the fire with these and be completely fine. Lastly, just a really quick mention here. This is the Made in USA watch cap beanie from Huckberry. It came out pretty recently. I tried the other Huckberry beanies, the classic one that has like 12 different colors. It was a little bit too small for my head. I've always used the REI, the thin REI logo beanies. I forgot the exact name. I'll put a link down below, but that one's worked pretty well for me over the years, but I wanted a different color option. Got this and was really impressed with it. So if you have a bigger head and want a beanie that's not going to like smush your head in, this is a good way to go. They have fun colors. This is this green color. They have a blaze orange. It's a little bit thicker than the REI one as well. They're both acrylic. $25 for something made in America that's really good quality. I just thought it would be worth mentioning as well really quick. Our next two jackets are both parkas for the heavyweight category. These are both going to be overkill in just about every sense of the word for almost all of us. It's a company called UBR. Reached out to me a couple of months ago and offered to send out a couple of jackets. They don't really have much of a presence in America. Asked if I wanted to test them out kind of as a no strings attached thing. And then they kind of ghosted me afterwards. I've had a really tough time getting a hold of them. Their website doesn't have a lot of details on the construction and materials. They're beautiful, incredibly warm. I just kind of wanted to give that caveat that I don't have all of the information I would like to have to be covering these. So all of that being said, this is the UBR Regulator Parka. This is their luxury Seville edition. So this exterior shell fabric is actually a 16.5 micron merino wool. UBR seems to be targeting or focusing on more of like an understated minimalist style Canada Goose. Really lightweight for business travelers, nice enough to be able to wear into a boardroom or something, or, board your first class flight ticket, something like that. I actually first heard about UBR as a brand. A couple of football managers for Manchester City and Manchester United were both spotted wearing these, and they got a bunch of buzz around Reddit. Really interesting, fascinating to see, but it kind of gives you the idea of the caliber of people for their typical clientele. This merino wool shell, though, looked incredible when I first saw it online, but in person it is even better. You just get this really nice texture, but it is a fully waterproof, membraned jacket with a merino wool shell exterior. So it's DWR coated, has a full membrane, so it's a full waterproof jacket. Knit fabrics like this aren't typically something you see as a shell fabric, so it's really fascinating. I can speak from experience, though, it works perfectly well as a shell fabric and has held up well to some pretty heavy downpours here in Portland. Outside of that, though, it uses 120 gram Primaloft insulation. You have a completely removable hood and a completely removable fur liner around the collar. It says it's fur. I'm not sure if it's faux fur or real fur or what kind of fur it is. If it is real fur, not mentioned on the website, but it does feel really amazing and really warm around the neck. Pocket situation is really great, though. You have 2 hand pockets, both with YKK AquaGuard zips. You have 2 chest pockets with storm flaps on either side. You have this really big chunky zipper that runs down the middle. It's a 2-way zipper as well, so you can pull it up when you're sitting or anything like that, because this is a pretty long jacket since it's a parka. Not an AquaGuard zip there, but you have a really big storm flap that goes over the top. Moving into the interior, you have the cinch waist built in here. These are a very slim cut, definitely a modern, slim, businessy, professional type of look with these, so I don't need this cinch personally. And then you have 2 chest pockets on the interior, both with zippers as well. Very luxurious, very nice. If you need something super warm and you're an executive or Manchester United football coach or something like that, this is the type of jacket you want. One other parka to go over, also from UBR, a little bit of a different style if you're not into that sort of sleek, minimalist, wool type of look in the last one. This is their Titan parka, definitely a more like traditionals type of style with the puffy insulation, and it's honestly even a little bit warmer than the Regulator parka. The exterior shell fabric is a 4-way stretch, makes it super comfortable, probably about a 60 or 80 denier fabric, so pretty heavyweight and pretty burly. You have these giant chunky zippers on the exterior as well. They are very large, very substantial, even on the 2 pockets. It uses a 90-10 800 fill power down. The amount of down in here is crazy, and the fact that it's 800 fill power is even crazier. Adds to that low weight. Comes in at 1,000 grams, so just a little over 2 pounds. I forgot to mention the last one as well. That one's 950 grams, so right about the same, right around that 2-pound mark. Super light, considering this is like a parka you could take down to well below freezing, probably right around 0 degrees Fahrenheit or something. These would really shine. With proper layering, I think you could easily take these down to -20 or -30. This one's a little bit warmer, but they're both extremely warm. One thing that was mentioned on the website, the baffling system is actually welded instead of sewn, so that helps with a lot of down migration or potential leaking points. Really big plus there. Just like the Regulator that we talked about last, this is a fully waterproof jacket with the membrane built in, so no issues there. I've tested them both in pretty heavy rain, performed excellent. So you have these 2 side pockets I already talked about. On the interior, you have 4 total pockets. 2 zippered chest side pockets there, and then 2 sort of mesh flap pockets underneath. Very useful having good interior pockets on these extra warm jackets, because if you're outdoors a lot in the extra cold, you get a lot of problems with your water freezing, your electronics not working properly, so having that good interior space is very important. That, coupled with the fact that this is lightweight enough to travel with pretty reasonably if needed. It looks nice enough, to go to a boardroom or something like that if you're a fancy executive. Definitely not me, but I still have been really loving this jacket, and I think I might end up using this for more of my winter camping adventures, more for car camping. I tend to backpack in the shoulder seasons, but do like full proper car camping when it's like dead of winter, just because access is pretty limited out here to a lot of spots. Overall though, aside from some production hiccups, these UBR jackets have been really great. I love that extra length. This is my first foray into parkas. As I said at the start of this section as well, probably overkill for most of us, both in terms of temperature and in terms of luxury. but really fun and interesting to check out. I might be doing updates at some point down the road. We will see. That's the end of the list for my top 8 picks, though. I think one of those 8 is going to suit you really well. I did want to take a minute to mention a few honorable mentions, though. I tend to only focus on things that I can own and test properly because I'm not comfortable recommending stuff that I haven't tried before, but a few other jackets that I really love that I would love to personally have that would probably be good. One, the N1 deck jacket from Ironheart. I really wanted to get my hands on one of those to test, but it was very expensive, and as you can see, I don't really need more coats to be able to spend that much, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully by next winter I can get one of those. There's also a really great wax canvas bomber jacket from Bradley Mountain in a gray color. I saw that on the Stridewise YouTube channel. Great guys, by the way, go check that out. One other one too is the Filson Mackinac Wool Cruiser. I do have one of those and it's a great option, but they changed out the wool since I got mine a few years back. Can't really vouch for the current one being sold. That's why I took it out of this list. Otherwise it probably would be. I'm sure the new one's great, but I like my Pendleton wool one from a few years ago. So maybe look at some used ones, save a bit of cash, get the Pendleton wool. And one other jacket is the Dehen 1920 Winston jacket. That's kind of a bomber with a nice like fur lining on it. It looks great. I just ran into a spot where I didn't personally need any more jackets, and I just don't really have the production budget for like a few $1,000s of extra purchases for a single video. Hopefully at some point down the road I can start doing more of that sort of stuff so I can test everything in an ideal way. We'll see. Thank you all so much for watching, though. I'd love to hear about what jackets you're loving for the cold right now. What's the coldest temp it's been this year? After this, I am probably going to go outside and see what the snow's looking like. Thank you all for watching, though, and I'll talk to you in the next one.